take a seat of honor, and
Yes.
I know you know all of us, but this is the new governor, a brand new seat. If you would just take a moment and introduce yourself and why you want to be a judge.
Yes, my name is Alvarez. I am a resident of Flagler County. I've been employed as a general magistrate for the last 13 years, which is, for those that may not know, the general magistrate hearing officer position is a quasi-judicial officer position that does many of the things that a judge does. We hear evidence, we conduct hearings, we write reports, we swear in witnesses, we admit evidence. As I indicated, I am a Flagler resident for the last approximately 26 years. I am heavily invested in Flagler County. My wife is also an employee of the Flagler County Schools for about, I think about 20 years now. All my children have attended elementary and secondary schools here in Flagler County. I attend church here, I have community activities, I'm a longtime soccer referee. All my children have played soccer at one time or another. I just believe that my experience as a magistrate, as a guardian ad litem attorney, as a DCF attorney, and then my experience in private practice for about 8-9 years. Total of about 34 years practicing as an attorney. I was admitted in New York and New Jersey first, and then Florida in 1993. I believe I have a wealth of experience to draw upon, a lot of experience dealing with conducting hearings, and hopefully I have the temperament and the moral fitness to be a judge, which I think is pretty much the highest calling that you can have as in our profession. It's what we all aspire to. While I certainly love my position as a magistrate, I think that we're constantly being pushed, and we always want to strive to do or to achieve something better. So I think being a county judge here in Flagler County, to me, would be my dream job. To work in the community that I've lived in for many years, and possibly that I could do a good job and help the people of Flagler County.
You've addressed my only other question, which was the ties to Flagler County, so I'll open it up for other questions from the commissioners.
Where does your wife teach, in the district here or elsewhere?
Flagler County. She's a high school teacher.
So what do you, talk to me a little bit about how you think you would fare in an election in this county.
And I know that's something that we have to seriously consider these days, because of the fact that everybody, it just seems that incumbents are being challenged more and more often now today. And I understand that there's a lot of work to be done if I should be ultimately selected. And that would involve certainly, retaining a campaign manager, making contacts, taking it seriously. So you can anticipate, I think basically someone once told me, a judge that I spoke to said, basically, once you are appointed, you basically have to start thinking about re-election the same day or the next day, because it's something that you have to look down the road and anticipate. It's not something that you can just treat casually. You certainly have to prepare and make contacts, and certainly amass a few funds to challenge that if that becomes necessary.
There's been several open seats probably since I've been on the JNC, and in election-wise seats. Why have you not sought the election route?
Primarily because, unfortunately, the state court administrator would not, I would not be able to retain my job if I ran for election and lost. So basically, I would have to first give up my general magistrate position in order to run. I understand that state attorneys and public defenders are not held to that same standard. So if they lost the election, they could always retain their job. So really, there's no risk then. And I just felt that the risk was too great. And I do love my position as a magistrate, don't get me wrong. So I just felt that, weighing all the pros and cons, I felt that it was probably too big a risk to do that at that point. certainly financial reasons and others as well.
You had a family to support
Basically, yes.
or help support. As you know, Mr. Alvarez, this is a county court position, and it involves interacting and addressing a lot of pro se litigants.
Yes.
So, do you also encounter that in your position as magistrate, and how do you see the role different for pro se litigants as opposed to represented litigants?
I think it's a natural progression, a natural flow from what I'm doing now, because I would say probably the bulk of the litigants that come before me are pro se. I would say probably when I first started back in 2006, there were I started in St. Johns County, by the way, and we had a lot more attorneys representing litigants. And I would say since that time, it's probably shifted to where there's more pro se litigants appearing before me. So you always have to be cognizant of treating pro se litigants fairly, compassionately, but at the same time, making them aware that they're taking a risk by not retaining a lawyer in some complicated cases that they would be better served having an attorney if they could. But that being said, I can't, they have to understand that they have to play by the same rules as everyone else. I can't treat them any differently as if they didn't have an attorney. But certainly there's some leeway that can be given to them. And at the end of the day, as long as they're afforded the opportunity to be heard and given a fair and a full and complete opportunity to say what they want to say, I think they're content or happy with the decision either way. Even if it rules against them, I think as long as you afford them the fair and honest opportunity to present their case, and that's the best that can be done.
I understand. I understand that some of the responsibilities for the new county clerk position may involve some probate work. What would you do in order to bring yourself up to speed with all matters related to probate so that you'll be useful?
Okay. That's an area that I'm not familiar with, but obviously we're all attorneys, and that's something that I would have to read and study the law upon. And I'm sure there'd be a learning curve, but I think in time, as I've done with the magistrate position, I've reached a modicum of proficiency and I would say expert knowledge in the law after a period of time. And I think as long as you apply yourself and work diligently and show a good work ethic, I think that's the most important thing.
Describe a little bit about your typical day, your schedule, how often you spend in court, how much time in writing reports and things like that.
Okay. For example, today, and I'm glad that I chose to put me first, because as soon as I get back to court, I have a case management today. The horse is all day. So typically, I am in court usually Monday through Thursday. My day is full of hearings, and usually what I do is set aside on a Friday to write the reports. Now, if I get a chance in between hearings, if a hearing should cancel, obviously, I will take that opportunity to write my report.
Can you think of a time when, if you had gotten to write the law, it would have a different outcome, but you have to follow the law, even if, you have a delightful person in front of you that you'd want to bend the rules for? Like, talk about the job of magistrate, or just your general philosophy on applying the law as written.
Unfortunately, what I think and believe and feel is not really germane to the issue. I have to, as a constitutional officer, I'm sworn to apply the law as written, no matter what. So even if I may not personally agree with that law, if that's what the law is, then I'm sworn to uphold and apply that law in every instance. That's not to say that for some pro se litigants, you may take extra time to explain, for example, why you're upholding an objection, an evidentiary objection, so that they understand why I'm ruling as I'm ruling. But that's, I'm still obligated to follow the procedural rules and evidentiary rules. I can't, because it's hearsay, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna let it in because it's a pro se litigant. So I'm still honor bound to apply the law as written, no matter what my personal feelings are.
Let me ask you, the FDR v. Alvarez, that civil issue, what was that? Where you were a defendant in a lawsuit in 2009?
Was that?
Flagler County Civil Co-Defendant FDR v. Alvarez?
I think that was a civil lawsuit where we had some water damage, and I think we had alleged that they had not done the work, and ultimately I think it was settled, but we were the defendants in a suit. I think it was one of those water damage. We had some water damage to our condominium, and so eventually I think we settled it, and the case was dismissed with prejudice, I believe.
Any other questions? Anything you want to leave us with?
I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. I know you put in a lot of work, and there's a lot of people in contact and a lot of things to do, and certainly, obviously, you're not getting paid for the time and effort that you put in. So I just want to really show my appreciation for all that you do, whether I'm sent up or not. I have gone up 4 times before, so hopefully the 5th time is the charm. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.